Chapter 17. Joining Maggie for breakfast. The three of us headed to Loretta's house, but had decided that we wouldn't stop if Ted's car was parked there, since we assumed he was still determined to shoot me on sight. No Impala. Still, we took the minor precaution of parking at Taco Bill instead of in front of Loretta's house. The restaurant had a spray-painted sign in the window that said, "Still open. Fuck the flood." Though it looked like it had maybe 48 hours before the cooks would be standing in puddles while they grilled the flank steak. Cars were creeping down the street, swerving out across the painted lines to avoid the overflowing gutters. To John, I said, "So this meeting you had with the non-agent Friday night, you've no recollection of it?" "Well, you know how it is in the sauce. You see things. Seems like a dream, or the memories from when you were a little kid. The ones you're not sure if they happened or if your brain just cobbled the memory together after you've heard the story secondhand. So I had this memory of running out of the Beanie Weenie building, and I think I need transportation. Then this guy on a crotch rocket Suzuki motorcycle, just like the one I owned years ago, rides up and asks if I'm John. Says he got a letter 5 years ago telling him to deliver a motorcycle to that specific place and time. So I jump on and I ride, and I run into the non-convoy. I somehow know which truck has Agent Pusnado in the back." Amy said, "Excuse me, who?" "The agent we just talked to. Anyway, I jumped off the motorcycle onto the hood of the truck. No, this is how I remember it. And they screeched to a stop, and I yelled at the driver that I need to talk to her, that it's for everyone's safety. She lets me in the back of the truck, and it's just me and her. I tell her I need 5 minutes. She says she needs 8 inches. Amy said, "Oh my God." I said, "That is not what happened. That's how I remember it, I swear. Do you remember anything else from where you were out? From when you were out? Anything that's not completely fucking stupid? Anything about Loretta or Maggie? Anything that would help prepare us for what we're about to walk into here?" He shook his head. "I don't know. I don't think so. You?" "No. I had a vision I ran into Nymph and he tried to tell me the meaning of life. Then I woke up." Amy said, "Anyway, obviously I have to go in again because I assume Maggie and Loretta both still think you're the kidnapper. You're not going in there alone, not after what happened last time. If we have to just barge in and do it by force, we will." Amy said, "Do what by force?" "Take out Maggie?" "The sign said talk to Loretta, not murder Loretta's child. It's not a child. We don't know that yet. Look, you guys feel free to keep debating it. I'm going in. I'll stick my phone in my coat pocket and you can watch." I said, "But what if Maggie turns into—" "Shh! Let me finish. The danger isn't Maggie turning into a big snake monster or something. The danger is she messes with my brain somehow. If she turns me into a big monster, I'll scream and run away. If she starts messing with my head, you guys need to get me out of there and slap sense into me." I said, "I don't like it either way." "Sure, and you can sit out here and contemplate how much you don't like it while I go inside." She opened the door. "Love you." "I love you too." We watched from afar as Amy's red coat bounced through the rain. She knocked on Loretta's door, then apparently got an okay to come in. I started watching on my phone, but didn't have a great view. The camera was just barely peeking up over the pocket of her coat. Amy pushed in through the door and appeared to be responding to a friendly greeting that I couldn't quite hear over the rustling of her coat against the microphone. I said, "I don't like this." John said, "Yeah, I think you said something about that. We'll give her 1 minute, then we bust in." Amy entered the living room. We could faintly hear Loretta talking from the kitchen, saying, "Actually, she's handling it better than the grown-ups, but you know kids are tough. John was here yesterday. He explained everything. I know you're trying to help, despite what Ted thinks. And now all those other kids are missing. Awful." Amy said, "Oh, I didn't know John had come by. What did he explain exactly?" On Amy's camera, we watched Loretta step into view, holding a mug of coffee. Half of her was missing. She looked like she'd been torn apart by a great white. Most of her neck was gone, to the point that it should have been impossible for her to hold her head upright. Just a white spinal column and a yellowish ligament surrounded by ragged meat in open air. About a third of her torso had been ripped away, from armpit to hip. She continued talking like everything was fine. I could see her windpipe twitching, her exposed lung inflating and deflating with each breath. That woman should not be alive. John gave a start, and I knew he could see it too, but Amy replied politely to the conversation, oblivious. Loretta said, John told me the police had turned you loose, that the bad guy had the same build and hair color as your David, but they'd eliminated him as a suspect. Still, I'd prefer he not come in. Maggie is still in bed, but I don't want to scare her. So, what do you need? Through the video feed, I watched as the woman's stomach twitched and quivered as it digested some bit of breakfast. Amy said, I'm not sure. You know, we're still trying to help however we can. Well, I know there's more to this, said Loretta, causing a little flap of skin to bounce around her throat. Maggie wasn't acting right before the abduction, I mean. I know this was something unusual. Amy said, Has Maggie acted strangely since she's come back? Not considering what she's been through, you know. Can I see her? Loretta invited Amy to follow her to Maggie's bedroom, and the camera tracked the mutilated woman down the hall. She opened a bedroom door a crack and said, Mags, you awake? The answer that came from the bedroom was a terrifying guttural squeal. John glanced at me. Amy reacted like she had heard an adorable child's voice and said, Oh, you can just let her sleep. I didn't intend to. Loretta said into the bedroom, I have someone who wants to see you real quick. Won't be 1 minute. Greek. It's okay. She's helping the police. Loretta pushed the door open. Lying on the bed was a maggot. It was approximately the same size as a human child. Its skin was translucent, and I could see its digestive system working, grinding up what looked like scraps of meat and leather. John said, Huh. I said, I'm going in. Wait. Amy said, Maggie? And moved gingerly into the room. The view from the phone leaned over the bed. Are you feeling okay? Maggie screeched and clucked and made sucking noises. Loretta sat down on the bed with Maggie, and the creature squished its way over to her. The mother laid her hand across the maggot's back, the monster's face resting a circular row of teeth against Loretta's abdomen. I'm just so happy to have her home. My heart breaks for the other parents missing their babies today, but I have to admit, I'm selfish. I'm happy to have Maggie back, and above all else, I want to make sure they never try to take her again. If you guys can help me with that, nothing else matters. I knew that the lingering effects of the soy sauce were the difference between what John and I were seeing versus everyone else. If I concentrated, I found I could actually see the formulation of fuckroaches swarming around the maggot, twitching and writhing in the vague shape of a girl. If I concentrated a bit more, I could see the little blonde girl they were projecting to the rest of the world, the child Amy was seeing, the one that had been woven into all of Loretta Knowles' memories. Then in a blink, it was back to the larva, hungry, pulsing. Maggie opened her slimy mouth and took a bite out of Loretta's belly, ripping skin and fat and chewing noisily. Loretta didn't even flinch. So I'll go ahead and attach this on as well, since technically it's not a new chapter, but just to let you know, we're at book 3. So, book 3. The following is excerpt from Fear, Hell's Parasite by Dr. Albert Marconi. There used to be a famous thought experiment that went something like this. A child is born blind. She has in her possession 2 wooden toys, a ball and a block. After years of playing with both, she knows the contours of each object intimately by touch, the sphere and the cube. Then, late in childhood, she is given surgery to correct her eyesight. Now that she can see for the first time, would this young lady be able to distinguish the block from the ball on sight alone? I say this used to be a thought experiment because we now know the answer. No. Real subjects who have had their sight restored upon seeing a cube for the first time cannot connect it with 8 pointy corners they recall feeling in their hands. They fully expect it to feel like the smooth sphere until they hold it and learn otherwise. The lesson? You do not see with your eyes. You see with your brain. The visual data that enters your optic nerve is meaningless noise without the brain's ability to overlay meaning upon it. This means, quite simply, that what you see, in a real, not metaphorical sense, is a result of what you have been built to see, and nothing more. If you would like a comparison, imagine the family dog lying in a room while its master watch a film on television. Dogs cannot see television. Their eyes are quite different from yours, so all they know is that the humans in the room are sitting motionless, staring listlessly at a noisy square object on the wall. The canine may note voices or other familiar sounds from that device, but because those sounds are not accompanied by smells, they do not represent anything of interest to it. Even if the dog could learn to converse with humans, it would be next to impossible to explain to the animal that the motionless, silent people in the room are interacting with other living beings located thousands of miles away, performing actions that actually occurred years earlier, which is to say, the family and the dog are in the same room, but experiencing very different realities. The very next day, the family takes that dog for a walk in the park. They are amused at how their pet frantically sniffs patches of grass, enthralled by seemingly nothing at all. They are mystified at its obsession with smelling the anuses of other dogs, yanking on its leash and discouraging it from indulging in what they figure must be a curious fetish. How could the dog ever explain that its sense of smell is thousands of times more sensitive than theirs? That it can, in mere seconds, sniff out an entire life or death drama that played out in that very patch of empty grass weeks earlier? One whiff told the hound that an animal had recently urinated there, that said animal's metabolism was failing, and that it was extremely frightened. A sniff of another dog's posterior spells out its entire biography, its age, success as a hunter, its suitability as a mate and or likelihood of winning a fight to the death. Same park, two different realities. This is despite the fact that man and canine both evolved in the same environment, with extremely similar biology. Now, imagine the difference between two beings who evolved in different worlds entirely. Knowing my line of work, I suppose you have already guessed why this is relevant to my interests. If a being from another universe were to appear in ours, our ability to understand it would be exactly as limited as the formerly blind teenager trying to identify his or her beloved toys by sight alone. Our brains would paw around madly for some context to make sense of the entity, but, finding none, would frantically try to construct a crude analog. Some of us would see demons. Some would see aliens. Some would see nothing at all. When those conflicting impressions clash with one another, well, you need only to open a history book to see the result. We will live and die according to how we interpret the unfamiliar. All of human culture is nothing more than the very process, playing out again and again.